So what I'd like is to get one person for each list to come up and show us what it was that the two groups together came up with. That's why I wanted to combine them, just so that we would just have one list. So who has the combined list for working on your own pros? The pros for working on your own. Come on up. We're going to put them up here because you're going to present this, and I want everybody to hear. So you're going to have to talk real loud. I've got tape. Here we go.
Tape it to the wall?
Yeah. That should work. I'll give you one more.
Yeah.
There we go. Good. So stick it right up. Yeah. Either way. There's a bag back there. So Sarah, right?
Yes.
Sarah's going to present this, and you might have to talk real loud, Sarah. So the benefits of working on your own.
Okay, hello. We have the benefits of working on your own. You can be more focused. There isn't the input of a group pulling you in different directions. It's convenient because you can do it at any time. You can be more honest with yourself, whereas in a group setting you might feel a little bit more constrained. It's more efficient because you're working only on yourself, not with others. You're the expert on yourself, so you're in the driver's seat of your assessment. You know where you are in the process because it's an ongoing process. You can reflect in the style that works best for you. You feel safer, so you can take more risks. And you're building skills for reflection in action.
Nice.
Those are
excellent.
on that table over there.
So you guys, were you guys fairly consistent between the two groups? Yeah, that's kind of what I thought would happen. Good, excellent. Is there anything else that anybody can see? You can go ahead. Anything else that anybody can think of that would be positive about working on your own that they didn't mention? I think they pretty much covered it. Yeah. It's you do it yourself. You do it when you want to. You know, you schedule your own time or not schedule it. It just happens, and it's yours. Yeah. What about the cons? Who's got the cons? I'm going to get you to put them up right next to here. Sorry, guys. The cons of working on your own. Somebody's got to have it. That's the introvert group, right? There's 1, 2, and 3. Whoops. Okay, stick her up there. Can you get in? We can only have tall people over here from now on. Okay.
So we had the lack of the possibility to get feedback both for yourself and to be able to also give feedback to others. You might get stuck on your own idea or thought and move forward. There's limits to being able to see all perspectives. You might not challenge yourself or might not be driven to actually reflect or avoid it. So there's decreased accountability sometimes. You might treat yourself too harshly or not harshly enough. You might lack awareness of the need to reflect sometimes if something's happened. You might lose track of reality and not actually see, again, all perspectives, and be a bit more, can be a bit more subjective. You don't have the opportunity to compare yourself to your peers and limited by your own ideas. It's a little lonely because you don't have that same collaboration. And
yeah, excellent. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So there's good and bad for everything. It can be safe, but it could also be unsafe in that you're not expanding your ideas. So who has the pros of working as a group? Oh, there we go.
I was hoping the fact that was short.
Yeah, pop it right up there. take another one. Okay. Yeah, that's a good exercise.
So group pros, but multiple perspectives, seeing your blind spots, getting feedback right away in real time. You get new ideas. You have the opportunity to collaborate, and that's kind of that additive effect that you can get. It builds trust and it builds a team if you do it as a group. It could also help draw out introverts. It also allows for getting some validation or confirmation that, yeah, you've hit it on the head. Or I guess, no, you didn't. There's also accountability, and you could also learn from a collective experience, kind of like a community of practice. And then lastly, it's effective use of time, especially if you're trying to build a team.
Absolutely. Yeah. A group setting, the group is greater than the sum of the parts, right? You find that. Okay. Anything else anybody has thought of that's really good about working with a group? I think they've got everything covered. That's what happens when you put a lot of heads together, right? Okay, and the cons of working as a group. Somebody's got that. Who's hiding out? What's? Ooh. I'm down to the last 3 bits of tape here.
Let's make it last.
Yeah. There we go. That one's a little wrinkled. Thank you.
So for the cons, we're talking about not being able to find a time that works for everyone, and that it does take a lot of time to sit down and reflect on the group setting. There could be poor group dynamics, personality-wise, extroverts versus introverts, people that take over the conversation versus people that don't like to share, and/or political group dynamics. If you're getting reflections from peers, seniors in the company or your bosses, that kind of thing. The time investment it takes to build rapport, comfort, and trust to provide that truthful reflection, and potential for negative outcomes post-reflection if there's taking it personally or having negative feedback from your boss and then not wanting to do the same job, that kind of stuff, and getting into the group thing.
Yeah. Yeah, the collusion. Everybody starts agreeing with each other just because you're all there and agreeing. Excellent. Is there anything else that people can think of? No? Yeah, that's one of the benefits of working as a group is that you get lots of ideas, and it can cost a lot. Oh yeah. It can be more, along with the scheduling and timing. If you take 5 people and put them all in one room and each person costs $100 an hour, that's $500, right? In private practice, we often think that way, that if you take a doctor and an OT and a physio and a psychologist, and you try to get everybody together for a team meeting, and the employer's paying all of those people, that's a pretty expensive meeting, when you start looking at it that way. So how did you guys find that? I think you guys have covered pretty much everything. There's some of the cons you're more vulnerable in a group, right? And we didn't use that word, but there's the dynamics, I think, is pulling at that. And I think you talked about you might not bring out the introverts, and some people might take over. There's certainly risk of that, depending on the size of the group and the facilitator as well. So how was that process itself of working together to come up with the ideas? You guys were pretty efficient working as a group. Probably more efficient than you would be on your own, trying to think up that same list. And really, the only reason I got you guys to combine them was because there's too many people to make 4 groups. And it worked out really well to do 8 groups. But then combining those, they were pretty much the same, right? Did you guys have any that one group had that the other group didn't have? Did anybody see that at all? There were a couple of nods, yeah. Yeah, that there were some things that one group thought of that another group didn't. So sometimes the more people contributing, the better. Sometimes not. And we can talk about that more later, depending on the size of the group. How did you guys find talking as a group? Do you guys all know each other? You've never really met before. One of the suggestions from yesterday, I take my feedback very, very seriously. One of the suggestions was to do some icebreakers to get people to know each other a little bit. And I decided not to do that because I wanted you guys to not know each other all that well. Because that's part of a group process, right? Sometimes it's a building thing. But I'll bet you by the end of the day, you're going to feel more and more comfortable as we go through some of these activities. Yeah. So yeah, I'm a mean OT. I do everything for a reason. I don't tell people stuff. Yeah. So it is, so we've talked about the benefits. So for people who like working in a group, timing couldn't be better. For people who really like working in a group, there's benefits to working on your own. And so those extroverts that would rather be out there, they may, there's not always the time. There's not always other people who want to do this with you. So you may have to go and do it on your own. So for each person in your own setting, depending on what your preference is, you may need to kind of, be flexible between the two, maybe have smaller groups or bigger groups, less formal, informal groups. And that expensive groups, a group can be expensive. There's also ways to have groups that are not expensive at all and actually cost zero, and that are very informal. You can have 2 people, a group of 2. And if you have a committed group of 2, that's a very committed group. I have a guy that I bike with in the summertime. It won't be till June this year because we're still full with snow everywhere. 2 years ago we would be biking this by now, but anyway. But we're a group of 2. And because we're a group of 2, we always show up. Every time. Because even if we were a group of 3, if you didn't show up, you know that the other two would be there. So a group of 2 is really a good committed group, that if the other person isn't showing up or isn't participating, you're letting the other person down, right? So a group of 2 can be really, really helpful. And you can build those relationships so that you can develop the rapport and develop the trust that you can get. And so that group of 2 could be a mentor, it could be a supervisor, it could be a best friend, it could be anybody. Somebody that you go for coffee with. It could be the speech therapist that works down the hall. It doesn't matter really who it is, as long as you've got somebody to talk to who gets it, who knows the questions to ask. Yeah. So good. Let's, oh darn, I was checking my time and then I got sidetracked. So it's 11:35. I'm going to get you guys to do, we're going to stop for lunch at noon. I'm going to get you guys to do another exercise, and then that'll take us to lunch, and then we'll stop and break for lunch, but then when we come back, we'll discuss those exercises in a group, and we'll take quite a bit of time for that. So we did it this way yesterday, where we worked on it before lunch and then took a break and then came back and talked about it, and I think that worked really well because it gave people a chance to think a little bit more too. So this next exercise, so that's the group comparing, contrasting. Actually, another benefit of working in a group is to get to do an exercise like this of pros and cons. And this is another activity that is used in motivational interviewing to work with a client. And there's always, always, always benefits to something. What's the benefit of not going out for that walk in the morning? And you can sit down and talk to the client. There are benefits for you not participate. there are benefits for you to not get out of bed in the morning. What are they? And to start getting people to identify what those are. And then, and then you can start to see, and actually the other thing with this too, so this whole activity of the pros and cons, you can use that in your reflection, use that in your reflective practice, to sit down, and if you've got a couple of different options, do all the pros of one option, all the cons, all the pros, all the cons. And quite often, you'll see this, Kirsten said, well, we did the group pros today, and that's the same as the solo cons, pretty much. They often overlap, right? So the working as a group counteracts the activity, the drawbacks of working as on your own. Anyway, I digress. So this next exercise, my champions, it's on page 7. I like this exercise, and we'll talk lots about it later. What I'd like you to do is take one of your professional development objectives. So take one of the ones that you wrote down on that first page. It doesn't matter which, whatever you want to think about right now. And then identify somebody who you know who's really good at that. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be, for me, I have a woman that I work with from time to time who's an occupational health nurse, and she knows a lot about a lot of things that I'd really like to know about. So for me, she's one of my champions. If my professional development objective was to be able to be to have a better understanding of the legislation around work site injuries, let's say, and then Mary was my champion. She's the person who I see as being really good at that. And then I start going through that. What is it that she does, and what is it that she knows that tells me that she's really good at it? And then what are they not doing? And you guys can answer that whatever way you want to. What kind of qualities and characteristics does that person have? Could they be doing better? And if they could be doing better, then what could they be doing if they're doing it better? And then think about one thing that person does that you could be doing yourself, and then make a plan, a very concrete plan. I could be very specific of what I could do that's like that person. You don't want to be that person. It's the characteristics and the skills that we're looking at. So give that a go, and when you guys are done, hopefully they will have set up for lunch. This should probably take you a good 15 or 20 minutes to get through, so really think about it. And then when they're set up for lunch, we can take a break, and we'll come back.